Welcome to GydeBites. I am Prasanna, your host. As AI becomes more capable, the role of financial advisor is evolving. Success will depend on how technology and human expertise come together to deliver better outcomes for the customers or clients. Exactly what we are going to explore today. Joining me is Anders Jones, who is CEO and co-founder at Facet. With nearly 2 decades of experience in fintech wealth management, Anders has been building financial planning solutions that make expert advice more accessible. His work focuses on transparent membership financial services that simplify planning, investing, and taxes. Anders, welcome to Guide Bytes. It is great to have you.
Thanks, Prasanna. Great to be here.
All right. So, Anders, let's get rolling right away. How do you think AI is changing the role of financial advisors?
It's a big question, and I think that it's one that everyone in the industry is scrambling to try and figure out. I think that on the one hand, you have some people that are making a bet that AI is going to replace financial advisors completely. And there's this sort of like AI maximalist view, and it's not just financial services, it's sort of across all white collar knowledge work that AI will sort of replace anyone in the sort of professional services world. I don't think that's true for a few reasons. I think number one is AI is good, but it's not great. And especially with things like financial advice and financial planning, AI is not very good at doing math. I don't know if you've noticed this when you used it, but it makes a lot of mistakes. And so, when you're talking about your own money or other people's money, you definitely don't want to be using a tool that's good some of the time. It also it doesn't have the sort of behavioral kind of like nuance. It doesn't understand the sort of emotional and behavioral nuances that a human can. And so, I find that when I use ChatGPT or Claude, AI basically agrees with me all the time. And that's nice, but it's actually not like it doesn't really solve my problems. And it's really funny. Like if you can play around with it and basically get it to say kind of anything you want. All that being said, I think that the role of the human advisor is still incredibly important. We at Facet, we do a lot of consumer research to understand is the end consumer, which is really kind of the most important, measure, is the end consumer going to want a human or want AI? Well, we focus on the mass affluent market, so kind of the 40 million households in the US that have less than $3 million.
Mhm.
And what we found is that, 17% of that market would be comfortable working with a full AI solution. So 83% of the market still wants a human involved.
Yes.
And so I think that this idea that AI is going to replace advisors, it's not going to happen. So what does that mean? You asked a very simple question. I'm giving you a very complicated answer, right? But so what does that mean? So I think that AI it's an incredible tool for advisors who use it correctly.
Mhm.
And at Facet, what we've done is we've built AI to make our advisors a lot more efficient in very specific ways. So we laid out an entire customer journey, a member journey, and we looked at every single task, every single workflow, every single process that happens from when a prospective member first hears about Facet all the way up to when they renew for the next year and refer their friends. And we looked at every single task and then we said, okay, what are the things that a human should do? And what are the things that should be automated? And by the way, automated doesn't necessarily mean AI. Like
Exactly.
there are certain things that you actually need like deterministic software for, like the actual math calculations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we basically said, okay, let's use humans where humans are best suited, AI where AI is best suited, and then software where software is best suited. And that's how we've approached it. I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah. I was about to ask you that where you see AI being best suited, but you already covered that pretty well. So one thing people sort of keep tripping over is the trust part of it, right? Because we go to financial advisors because we trust their judgment, we trust them for their advice, and so on. How do you think? Do you think advisors can use AI without losing that trust that they have built over the years with clients and for the financial advice as well as just the relationship, right?
No, 100%. Yeah. But again, I think it is really important that an advisor thinks very specifically about where they're using AI. So
Mhm.
I'll give you two very different examples, right? So one thing we use AI for is message routing. So we have an app and people will send us messages, our members will send us messages through the app. And some messages should go to the advisor. If it's like, hey, my air conditioning broke and I'm going to have a $10,000 bill, I got to figure out how to pay for that. What do you think? That's an advisor question. Some should go to our investment operations team, which is like, I need to, deposit an extra $5,000 in my Roth IRA. And then some should go to our member experience team, like, I forgot my password. Can you help me reset it? Right. So we use AI to do message routing. So basically, a message will come in and an AI will say, okay, this one should go to the advisor. This one should go to the MX team. This one should go to investment ops. And that saves everyone time. Right. And it's kind of like this automatic air traffic control. That's a great use case for AI because the member doesn't see it. If it makes a mistake and the investment operations team gets a message that should go to the financial advisor, it's not a big deal, right? Like it's a couple extra clicks of the button and, you end up with a much more efficient back end operation. The challenge with that, so that's all fine. Like a bad use case would be an advisor basically says, I'm going to set AI to respond to any message that comes from a member. And, our advisors can't do that. Like it's all centralized at Facet. But like, if an advisor, decides that they're going to just use AI to respond to all messages, like you can imagine there's going to be a lot of slop that gets generated and bad advice and things like that. And there's definitely advisors who are doing this. Like I've heard stories and I've seen examples of this, and that destroys trust very fast, right? Because it's like, wow, if this guy's not going to respond to my message, like why on earth would I ever trust him managing my money? And so I do think that you can use AI and maintain the trust, but I think it's really important to just be very thoughtful about where you're doing it.
Sure. And with AI, every industry is sort of going through this skill churn, right? Because the developers are thinking, okay, AI is writing most of the code. What software developers, I mean, what I'm going to do, or what someone like testing or someone like who is drafting PRDs is going to do. What skills you think the financial advisor should, it will define them in this whole AI sort of era that we are going through?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that if you think about the sort of financial advisor market in the US, you've got a few different segments. And you've got advisors that work for big companies. Like, we're sort of a growing company, but we're sort of on that trajectory. Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, LPL, pick your sort of big company where they dictate the tech stack in a centralized manner, right? And so if you're an advisor at Fidelity, you're logging in, there's a set of tools that Fidelity IT has said, this is how it's going to work. And, you're off to the races. And my guess is that those jobs don't change that much. Like they just get incrementally easier to, or that you're able to do sort of incrementally more and work with incrementally more clients. And that's sort of the approach we've taken at Facet. We try to, when we build technology, we think about how do we make both our members have a better experience and how do we make our advisors have a better experience as employees at Facet. So I think that will just kind of continue. And I don't know that, there's like a sort of skill specialization that needs to happen there. I think the big question is around the independent advisor market. And, there's about 30,000 independent advisors in the US. And, those are basically small business owners and entrepreneurs who are building their own tech stack. And they're defining what their version of financial advice is for their clients. They're figuring out what technology they want to use. They're figuring out what tech stack's going to look like. And I think that's going to be a really interesting evolution over the next couple of years. There's something like 250 wealth tech companies out there that are selling into that market. None of them are really integrated with each other. It's a tough landscape for an independent advisor to navigate. And like, they're not engineers, they're financial advisors. So like, they don't really have that sort of inherent sophistication to figure this out themselves. So, I don't know, that landscape is going to evolve and it's going to be really interesting to see how that changes. I think that, there's that saying in Silicon Valley, it's like, there are a lot of features that are masquerading as products that are masquerading as companies. I think that dynamic exists and has existed for a long time in the wealth tech market, and we'll see how it evolves.
Sure. Yeah, that resonates.
Yeah.
There's the last one for today. AI is going to stay, right? Whether we like it, whether we call it AI slope, or whether we say AI is great or not. What do you think financial advisors will look like from in next few years with AI being prevalent, AI being taking autonomous decisions, and so on and so forth?
Yeah. So I think the underlying idea behind financial advice is kind of twofold, right? Like the value prop that a financial advisor really has is twofold. One is I'm going to give you advice and like help like do financial planning and sort of tell you what to do. And
Mm-hmm.
the other is I'm actually going to do that, like implement the advice for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now what that looks like for the majority of the industry is I'm giving you advice, and by the way, I'm going to manage your money and, open the right accounts and allocate it correctly and all that. I don't think that value prop really changes at all, and I don't think that people are going to lean too heavily on AI doing the actual implementation. Like we're a long way away from AI, an agent like opening an account on someone's
I
behalf
know.
for a variety of reasons. I mean, there's the accuracy piece, but there's also like from a regulatory standpoint,
Yeah.
an agent can't go through a KYC process and like open an account, right? But I think the thing that is going to change is that the set of services that a financial advisor offers is going to expand.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is right now an advisor gives you advice and they manage your money. And then
Mm-hmm.
they might say to you, hey, you don't have an estate plan. So here's a number for an estate planning attorney that I work with. Go talk to him or her. And then you go to the estate planning attorney and you start all over again. You pay that person a lot of money. And then they say, oh, you need to talk to a tax specialist. And so you go and talk to a tax specialist. And it kind of, your financial life lives in a lot of different places with a lot of different companies and different professionals. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's all going to continue to come under one roof. And so, like at Facet, what we do is you sign up for a membership, we do your financial planning, we'll manage your money, we'll do your taxes, we'll do your estate plan, we'll do your insurance, we do all of it. Your financial life lives in one place at Facet.
One sort of umbrella under which everything you get everything.
Exactly. And AI makes that easier because the data to go back and forth and to kind of share between systems and have one holistic view
Yeah.
is that AI is a huge unlock for that. And so I think that number one, the technology is now at a place where that's very possible. And then number two is the market is continuing to demand that, like as new and younger users of financial advice are coming into
Mhm.
the market, they're asking, they're asking for that sort of one-stop shop solution.
Super cool. Just let's move on to the last segment for today. We always ask our guests to leave our listeners with one piece of practical advice. It can be related to the work that you do, or it can be related to AI, it can be related to financial advice or anything. What would you like to share?
I'll share a piece of wisdom that I learned from my first CEO I ever worked for, which was always trust your gut when it's negative, never trust it when it's positive. That piece of advice has served me well for decades. So there you go.
All right. Anders, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on financial advice with us today. It was a great conversation.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
All right. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. And if this episode gave you a new perspective, please share it with your colleagues, with your network, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.